Greetings to all of you. I'm going to do something unusual in this video in that I want to talk about the upcoming solstice that will be on June 20th or 21st, depending on where you are around the globe. I don't usually put out videos this far in advance of a significant event because I think it's important for us to be in the energies and be directly experiencing them. But this particular solstice feels very, very powerful to me and important that we be preparing for it and be in our own process around its meaning for us and our lives individually and collectively. As we're in this incredibly accelerated time of transition and transformation, we've been feeling how the astrological energies, as well as the energies coming to us from the galactic center, coming to us from the sun as we're in this year of solar maximum, have been really activating shifts in us, physically, emotionally, spiritually, guiding us in a rapid way through this time of transition from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, but also as we're moving out of the Kali Yuga, the time of forgetting, the time of disconnection from our soul selves, from our connection with Source. We're being supported in moving into higher consciousness. Remember that the Kali Yuga ended, as Bibhu Dev Misra has shown us in his research, on March 20th. So that was the time of the equinox, spring equinox here in the northern hemisphere, autumnal equinox in the southern hemisphere. So now we're coming to the solstice, another critical time in this time of the year, and ancient cultures in particular highly honored these times of the equinoxes and the solstices and their profound meanings for us. So I think this solstice in particular is very powerful in how it's activating the energies that we're in and supporting us in a profound way in this shift. As we come to the solstice, it will be the summer solstice, the time of the longest day, the shortest night, here in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, it will be the time of the longest night and the shortest day. I think this is interesting as I'm working with a group on exploring and integrating the wisdom of the southern hemisphere and the wisdom of the northern hemisphere. I think it's significant that at these times of the solstices, each hemisphere is holding the extreme. In this case, the northern hemisphere holding that energy of light, southern hemisphere, that wisdom and energy of the dark, but holding that duality, holding that polarity, again, to support us in integrating the wholeness of the light and dark, but also the wholeness of who we each are. This particular solstice is extraordinarily powerful, both because of the astrological energies, and I'll show you the chart in a minute, but also because of where this solstice sun is in the sky at the time of this solstice and the configurations that it's in. So let me first show you the chart so that we can get a sense of the energies of this solstice and what this may mean for us. So here in the Boston area, the solstice will be on June 20th at 10:41 p.m. But wherever you are, the solstice sun will be at 29 degrees of Gemini, 29 degrees, 59 minutes, just before moving into Cancer. And it will be in an out of sign conjunction with Jupiter. And part of what I think is very significant is this solstice sun will be squaring the lunar nodes, Remember, the lunar nodes are guiding us in what the energies are that we're meant to focus on in this time. And when a planet is squaring the lunar nodes, it makes that energy of that planet, or in this case, the luminary, the sun, even more potent. And the sun is applying to the north node. So we're meant to really work the energy of this solstice sun through the energy of the north node at 22 degrees of Pisces. And I'll return to the meaning of that in a minute. But it's also highly significant that the sun and Jupiter at the time of this solstice are in a powerful yod with Pluto and Mars. Remember that a yod is this configuration that consists of two quincunxes, which are aspects that are approximately 150 degrees, and it's an aspect indicating attention. You have planets that are in elements that don't naturally work well together. It's not an opposition where you're holding the polarity and can bring that into integration and into unity. In this case, you're dealing with challenging, tense aspects. And a yod, which consists of two of these quincunxes, is channeling the energy of those quincunxes into the focal planet. The way that you work the energy of a yod is by working the base, because these planets will actually be in a sextile with each other, able to collaborate and cooperate to then channel that energy into the focal planet. This yod configuration is sometimes referred to by astrologers as the finger of fate or the finger of God. It's really targeting energies that are needing to be integrated into that planet that is the focal point. What's significant is that Mars, at the time of this solstice, is in two different yods. It's in this yod with the focal point being Pluto, but also it is the focal point of a quincunx with Pluto and then Neptune and Saturn. It's interesting that Mars is also in an out of sign square with Uranus. So Mars is very prominent at the time of this solstice in that it is being activated by all three outer transpersonal planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. So what are the meanings of these yods, and what are they telling us about the energies of this powerful solstice? This yod with the sun and Jupiter and Mars targeting Pluto is showing us that this way in which Sun, Jupiter, we're moving into new beliefs, a new sense of faith at the time of this powerful solstice time of the year. We're meant to bring it into action. And that then supports us in this powerful transformational time that we're in as we're moving into the age of Aquarius. Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. And remember, I talked about this in an earlier video, that Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius, the Sabian symbol for that is a Hindu healer. How are we experiencing the necessary lessons that are a part of our healing ourselves of distortions of light? How are we dealing with the lessons that are coming to us to guide us in our healing journeys to clear our distortions of light? How interesting that at this time of the greatest light or the greatest dark, at the time of the solstice, Pluto is in this critical, powerful yod, helping us look at how do we heal our own distortions of light. Let me just say more about that for a minute, because I think part of what we're realizing as we come out of the Kali Yuga and we come out of this mechanistic, reductionistic sense of who we are as humans, who we are in relationship with the cosmos, we're increasingly coming to understand and integrate that everything is energy, everything is consciousness. We are beings of light. Our cells actually communicate through photonic light. Dr. David Clements has just done a profound presentation on Joceyln Star Feather's recent summit, and I'm going to put the link to that video below, in which he describes how we live in a holographic universe, which is carrying these waves of energy and of information communicated through light, that the quantum and subquantum fields are about a unified consciousness, no longer in the realm of duality, but that everything is communicated through these packets of light, of information, photons. And as we are now experiencing the light energies coming to us from the galactic center, from our sun, we are literally, as he would say, downloading information as this light is coming to us, transforming us, informing us, and guiding us. So Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius is saying we need to clear the distortions, and I would say the blocks to that light of the cosmos that is trying to enlighten us and inform us and clear us and heal us, to prepare us for moving in to higher consciousness and these new paradigms of the Aquarian age. And let me come back to the chart. So we're meant to shift our beliefs. We're meant to act from that and be in that transformation that is supporting us in healing and moving more and more fully into receiving this light of consciousness that is transmuting us more and more into beings of light. The other yod that's very powerful, with Mars as the focal point, now Pluto in its sextile with Neptune and Saturn, is the base of this yod. And I've been talking in great detail in previous videos about how powerful this conjunction of Neptune and Saturn are in the early degrees of Aries. And remember, they will go into exact conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries in February of 2026. But I think this configuration of Pluto sextiling Saturn and Neptune, sextiling Uranus, now in an out of sign sextile. But remember, in July 7th, Uranus will move into Gemini, and then you have very tight sextiles between these outermost planets. And remember, sextiles and Uranus and Pluto will be in a trine, are collaborative energies. And the fact that the focal point of those sextiles is Neptune and Saturn. How are we moving into new forms? How are we dissolving the out of balanced paradigms of the age of Aries that have continued up to our present time to move into new forms and new ways of being, Aries, to allow Neptune to support us in coming back into spiritual consciousness to then bring it into form, Saturn in Aries. So this is the base for this yod that is focused on Mars. How do we be in this time of transformation and healing? How do we dissolve the out of balanced patterns of Mars, ruler of the age of Aries, to move into new ways of being, to then act on that? And Mars and Virgo at 2 degrees, the meaning of that, which I find very profound, is to guardian angels. That is the image for the Sabian symbol of 2 degrees of Virgo, 2 guardian angels, that we have invisible help from non-physical beings of light to protect us in times of crisis. So Mars is not only encouraging us to act, and act coming from energies of healing and being of service, Virgo, but the Sabian symbol is saying, as we're in this crisis time, this time of chaos and transition and transformation, we are guarded and protected by angelic beings, beings of light. So there are so many themes in this solstice chart that are about the energies of light that are protecting us, that are calling us into healing, that are calling us into transformation. Then there are so many other powerful aspects in this solstice chart. We have the sun in sextile to Chiron and Arizona, continuing to activate that theme that's been so strong in the aspects astrologically that are supporting us in healing. Again, healing our sense of self, moving in new directions, Arizona. We have Saturn and Neptune still in this wide conjunction with Ceres, which is guiding us in knowing that as we're moving in these new directions into new forms, the Earth herself, Ceres, is moving into new forms and new ways of being. And her activations, her own healing process and transformational process, as we experience winds and storms and the effects of these solar flares and other energies, she is guiding us through this time of transition into change, into moving into new forms. And let me just show you a few other Kuiper Belt objects or important dwarf planets or centaurs that are coming into play at the time of this solstice. We continue to have the healing centaur Nessus, now at 21 degrees of Pisces, conjunct the North Node, supporting us in healing ancestral wounds and generational patterns, to be healing and clearing and moving into new ways of being. I think it's also significant at the time of this solstice that Salacia is conjunct Ceres. Remember that that is that Kuiper Belt object that is about the light on the sea, the light on the calm ocean surface. Again, this energy of light activating the earth in her own healing and transformational process. The other aspect that I think is particularly significant is we continue to have Haumea squaring Pluto, and now it's trining the Sun and Jupiter at the time of this solstice, guiding us into regeneration, into moving into new ways of being, shape-shifting, to move into these new forms that we're being called into. But the other one that's very significant is at the time of this solstice, the Sun and Jupiter are opposite Ixion, which continues to be a part of this powerful configuration with Pholus and Quawar. But as I've talked about in earlier videos, I see Ixion is symbolic of our getting mired in ego consciousness and in competition, impulsivity, desire to do whatever we need to fulfill our egoic impulses or desires, no matter what the consequence. And I think the fact that this is in aspect to the Sun and Jupiter, it's trining Mars, it's squaring Saturn and Neptune, we're being called to step out of ego consciousness, to clear those out of balance patterns, to be moving into new ways of being. This is such a powerful chart with astrological energies showing us this is a time of healing. This is a time of clearing distortions of light and what blocks us from taking in this light of consciousness coming to us from the cosmos, being supported by our experience with the earth energies to be helping us heal and awaken and move into higher consciousness. So as we look at a few more key aspects in this chart, I think it is very significant that the moon is now at 0 degrees of Taurus, sextiling the sun and Jupiter at the time of the solstice. We're in 5 days moving into a new moon where the moon will join Jupiter and the sun in the early degrees of Cancer. The moon is now opposite the asteroids Vesta and Black Moon Lilith. So I think this is a powerful configuration about the importance of our grounding in our connection with nature, Taurus, and the sacred feminine. Vesta and Black Moon Lilith are very much about the energies of the sacred feminine and that sacred fire of the wisdom of the sacred feminine within us, Vesta. And these asteroids are trining the sun and Jupiter at the time of this solstice. And the sun is also in a trine with Pallas Athene, creative intelligence. Again, these asteroids bringing the energies of the sacred feminine as a critical part of this transformational process that we're in. But let me just also talk about some of the final important Sabian symbols in this profound solstice chart. At the time of this solstice, the sun at 29 degrees of Gemini, the Sabian symbol for that is about creating principles to define who we are. Dane Rudhyar would say that means this is an hour of decision, a time where we each take personal responsibility to define who we are, what we believe, in its conjunction with Jupiter, what we have faith in. So this solstice is a critical defining moment where we're each meant to step clearly into being clear about who we are and the principles that are defining our lives. And again, that then guides us in this transformational process with Pluto in Aquarius. Jupiter at 2 degrees of Cancer, the Sabian symbol is about facing challenges with determination. So we're meant to really make this decision. What are the principles that we're aligning with? And how do we hold that with inner determination to be in this transformational process, and then to know that we are held and protected and guided and supported by angelic beings. Mars at 2 degrees of Virgo. And remember that this solstice sun is squaring the lunar nodes, applying to the north node at 22 degrees of Pisces. And the meaning of that lunar node, which is calling us all collectively into what we're meant to be energizing and working towards at the time of this solstice. And the meaning of 22 degrees of Pisces, the image in the Sabian symbols, is a prophet carrying tablets of the new law from Mount Sinai. A prophet carrying tablets of the new law from Mount Sinai. This is about revelation, guidance coming to us from the cosmos, from cosmic consciousness, to then support us in how we're defining those principles that we're aligning with, and then how we act on them and live from them. Something that's really interesting to me about that image for the North Node at the time of this solstice is that that moment that it's referring to from the Hebrew Bible, where Moses is bringing these new laws that have been downloaded to him from the divine to bring them to the people from Mount Sinai. As he comes down the mountain, he sees the people worshiping a golden calf, and he's enraged, and he ends up throwing the tablets to the ground and burning the golden calf. What is the meaning of that? This story in the Hebrew Bible comes at the cusp of the end of the age of Taurus as we're moving in to the age of Aries. So the revelation coming to Moses on Mount Sinai are the new laws and principles from the Hebrew God about how to be in this energy of the age of Aries, where now the ram is sacred and the calf and the bull of the age of Taurus are now blasphemous and need to be destroyed. So it's showing you we're moving from one lens and one focus, where in the age of Taurus, the sacred feminine was honored and the cow and bull were seen as sacred, to now we're moving into new laws, the regulations and principles of the age of Aries, the sacred ram, these new commandments for this new age. So I think it's interesting that this North Node in Pisces is speaking to how are we redefining our spiritual beliefs, our spiritual understanding? How are we receiving a new revelation that is now guiding us to integrate the gifts of the age of Pisces, but move into this new lens, new belief system, new way of seeing and being that is about this new age that we're now entering into. So this solstice feels very powerful in how we're holding the energies of the light and dark in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. How are we clearing what blocks us from these energies coming to us from the galactic center, from the sun, guiding us to download, to integrate new revelations from the cosmos, supporting us to heal, to transform, to become more conscious, to transmute more and more into beings of light. And as we're in this crisis point and this decision point, we are being protected and guided by angelic beings. Let's now look at where this lands in the sky. As those of you who watch my videos know, I am very focused on the importance of the constellation Orion in the sky. Remember, it's the constellation opposite the galactic center and opposite the constellation Ophiuchus, which symbolizes who we are as humanity in our healed whole state when we fully integrate the energies of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. And Orion is symbolic across cultures, across history, for our understanding, our journey of evolution of consciousness as humanity. And as I've talked about in earlier videos, Orion moves in its declination higher and higher in the sky across the precessional cycle. It is now at its highest point in the sky and is close now to the ecliptic. And at the time of this solstice, the sun will be in the upraised arm of Orion. Now, this has been true in the past several years with our time of this summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, winter solstice in the southern hemisphere. What makes this particular solstice so powerful is that Jupiter is now conjunct the sun in the upraised arm of Orion. Remember, the symbolism of this is order arises out of chaos. This is a time of resurrection, rebirth. the light of the sun and Jupiter, this planet that opens us to new possibilities, faith, supports us in moving into new principles and beliefs and understandings of who we are and of what our life is about and what these new paradigms are that we're moving into, is guiding us out of the chaos of the Kali Yuga that is still struggling for control on the planet into order, into new principles, new beliefs, new ways of being. And it's also highly significant that Mars, which is so critical in both of those powerful yods in the solstice chart, is conjunct the royal star Regulus. Mars conjunct Regulus is, how do we come from our hearts with courage? How do we act with courage? But remember that Regulus is also the royal star of the north. That means it gives gifts in leadership, but only if we face the challenge of not acting with that strength and leadership ability to come from a place of revenge or lashing out at others. If we operate with that energy of Regulus out of an abuse of power, out of revenge, it leads to downfall. So there's a powerful theme in this solstice chart about Mars guiding us in this time of transformation, but only if we're coming from our hearts with courage and not acting out of revenge or an abuse of power over. Think about the meaning of that as we're seeing the last efforts of those clinging to the out of balanced power over paradigms of the Kali Yuga, striving for power, revenge, control. Almost every planet in the sky at the time of the solstice is in a very significant configuration in the sky. But I want to just highlight a few others that are very significant. Uranus continues to be now in its alignment with the Pleiades, guiding us to open to the support from the Pleiades to guide us in this transformational process. Venus is here in that powerful part of the sky called in the Stair of Cetus, is very close to the head of Cetus, guiding us to listen to the deep wisdom of the whales of the oceans that are coming to guide us into remembrance of who we are and how to live in harmony with all that is, and how not to be caught in this dynamic of patriarchal power over the warrior striving to slay and defeat those energies of the sacred feminine. But in fact, those energies are rising from the deep to support us in healing and transforming, which is also seen in Neptune's conjunction with Saturn in the stars of Pisces, supporting us in reconnecting with those wisdoms from the deep waters of the earth, from source. And the moon is in the stars of Pisces. And Pluto, that focal point of the other powerful transformational yod, is here between the stars of Sagittarius and Capricornus, but in a direct alignment with the star Altair in Aquila. This constellation is known as the Eagle, and this is the eye of the eagle. And I believe the symbolism of this is that Pluto in this time of transformation is helping us see with those eyes of the eagle, the messenger of the divine that has that far-seeing vision and can guide us in this transformational time. But it's also interesting that the constellation Aquila, the eagle, has often in different cultures been associated with the energy of fire and lightning and the sun gods. It is calling us into clarity, transformation, enlightenment. So this solstice is going to be a powerful time, and I really feel like it's a time of awakening, that we may get energies from the sun, or the earth may be guiding us in ways that are calling us into awakening, into healing, into opening to these energies of light coming to us from the galactic center, from the sun, into integrating that duality within us, the light and dark within us, as we're integrating it across the hemispheres to come into wholeness. And it's calling us into clarity about who we are, what we believe, what are the principles that we are being guided by to step into the new forms and new paradigms of the age of Aquarius. And I believe that as those of us who are on this path of consciousness step in to that integrity, to Mars conjunct Regulus, coming from our hearts with courage, we will be protected by those guardian angels, by the Pleiadians who are supporting us in this transition time. We will be protected and supported. But I also think this solstice is saying the light of clarity and consciousness is coming to the earth to call those who aren't on a path of consciousness into awakening. I truly believe that we are in this time where more and more of us are feeling this expansion in our consciousness and this accelerated time of healing and transformation as we're moving into these new forms and into higher consciousness. And we are seeing the chaos and turbulence and turmoil on the earth of the intensity of those old power over destructive paradigms still playing out and causing destruction to the environment and massive death and suffering to so many of us on the planet. And I believe this solstice is also a wake-up call for them, that in the love of the cosmos, it is trying to give us each an opportunity to wake up and move into higher consciousness. Remember that that energy of Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius is the Hindu healer guiding us in necessary lessons to heal our distortions, to heal what blocks us from really being more fully in the light of conscious awareness. So may we in this community, may we who are working this time consciously, hold that energy of coming from our hearts with courage. May we emanate that energy of our determination to walk this path of spiritual consciousness, of coming from love and truth and balance and harmony into the collective. Let us align with the energies at the core of the earth and the energies coming to us from the galactic center, to be in alignment with who we are as soul selves, to emanate that light and wisdom and love of the cosmos that is moving in us, moving through us, supporting us in our transmutational process, and supporting us in emanating those energies into the collective consciousness to support the healing of the world. I plan to put out a meditation closer to the time of the solstice to support us in that. But know that these are powerful energies. Look at where they fall in your own chart, especially the Sun and Jupiter, as well as those energies of the Yod, Pluto, Mars, Neptune, and Saturn. But more than that, honor that these energies, whether you know where they are in your chart or not, are coming from the love and wisdom of the earth and sky to guide you in taking in that light of healing and transformation, of being guided to clear whatever blocks you're caught in from the past, to heal and clear the trauma and the ways you've gotten out of balance from the pain of the past or the patterns of generational trauma or of ancestral lineage, to come more and more into clarity, into healing, into wholeness, to then feel your heart expand with this light and wisdom coming to us from the cosmos, to trust as we move through this time of turbulence that we are held and protected, guided and loved. We are soul cells here in human form to support this shift. And I'm deeply grateful that we are here together, supporting each other in this, energizing this together to support the healing of the world and our co-creating a new earth together. Blessings and love to all of you. Blessed be.